Hello everyone, I want to say thanks for watching the videos and thanks for sharing the videos. And if you're not yet subscribed, I want to reach 1,000 subscribers within another few weeks or maybe 2 months. I realize that people are watching the videos and I'm trying to comment where necessary. And if possible, I want to point out something as it relates to historical facts. Sometimes I would present something and people say that I have not gone deeper in searching for the historical fact. But what exactly is a historical fact? I want to say that there are 5 elements necessary. You have to have evidence. Historical evidence can come from various sources. It can be written documents, artifacts, or just someone telling a story, or someone finding something, but it has to be reliable and it has to be interpreted and, of course, established as a historical fact. And there's also collaboration. Historical facts are often established through multiple collaboration of evidence, and of course evidence agreeing. So we have to also remember that. And we have to think about the context. Understanding the historical context in which the event occurs is important. And sometimes we need to understand that the history that we have received was never written by our people sometimes. So therefore we have to go through these documents and establish the bias and perspectives as it relates to who was telling the story. You can do various elements of analysis. So therefore, we must remember within that too, historians use certain methods to establish facts, the significance of the event, and how it changed elements. This includes critical evaluation of sources using theories. So when someone says, I do not position a fact, you have to understand that there are so many elements. What your perspective might not really be mine, or based on the evidence I've reviewed, gives me a different perspective. I'm saying is, if you establish something, share it with others so others can learn. That's what this channel is about, and that's how we're going to keep it. Now, we want to look at significant events in Jamaica during the 1970s. Now, what's significant from my perspective might be different from someone who was living at that point in time, who was 15, 16 growing up. In the 70s, I was a young boy. So I have to look at what the research was saying, and I can establish myself within that framework. However, my mind as a child might differ. You see what I'm saying? I want us to understand that my perspective on what I'm going to be sharing now might be somewhat different, but we hope we can make some connections. Now, let me say that the 70s were a time in Jamaica's history that really shaped Jamaica from my perspective. Now, let us begin our reflection of the 1970s. Remember, we must understand that Jamaica has always been influenced by the United States. And in the 1970s, one significant element in Jamaica was the rise of the Black Power movement, which was now global. The movement in Jamaica sought to address discrimination and economic inequalities. Individuals like Trevor Monroe, who was very young then, was very much involved in the movement. Michael Manley's election as Prime Minister marked a significant shift towards democratic socialism, aimed to address social and economic inequalities. Consequently, this included the implementation of progressive social reforms, but also increased political polarization and economic challenges. Michael Manley is known as the individual who made an impact as it relates to social services in Jamaica. At that time, there was also a diplomatic shift in relation to Cuba. This led to a cooperation with socialist countries, but also strained relationships with the United States, especially during this time. As a young boy, the fear of an alliance with Jamaica and Cuba was so strong that as a young boy, I heard people selling off their homes and lands and heading off to the United States and England. I would say some would live to regret it. And I say regret it. I remember conversations during this time about the cost of food, how it was expensive. Many Jamaicans believed that the 70s was just a difficult time based on what was happening. Although the 70s would be classified as difficult, the introduction of the minimum wage was a wonderful movement. The introduction of the minimum wage was based on improving living standards in Jamaica. While it provided financial relief for many, it also posed challenges to small businesses and broader economic issues. Now, when we look at bauxite, Jamaica's always been a bauxite country. The bauxite levy in 1974. The imposition of a levy on bauxite production increased national revenue, but strained relations with foreign mining companies. In the 1970s, culturally, Jamaica was on a movement with, of course, the reggae music. The Rastafarian were being recognized for their music and, of course, their culture. The growing recognition for the Rastafarianism and its association with reggae music enhanced Jamaica's cultural influence globally. However, the movement also faced social and legal challenges within Jamaica. Within that same time period also, Jamaica's reggae music rose globally. The international success of music boosted Jamaica's cultural identity and tourist industry. However, it also highlighted social economical issues and the struggles within the country. And with that cause, there was a movement towards political dominance. Jamaica has always been a place that you have political clashes. And the 70s revealed that, yes, this was a trend that would continue for several decades. The issues surrounding the 1976 election led to the state of emergency and increased international concerns about Jamaica's political stability. And of course, it deepened the division in the society. Today, Jamaica is still divided politically. I came across, of course, this New York Times article, and I want to share with you a bit more as it relates to the issue of guns in Jamaica. And in 1976, there was an awareness of what was happening. I want you to pause the video or continue for a few seconds to just scan what this is actually saying about the gun crisis in Jamaica. Today, people warn against the IMF, but in the 70s, 1977, the IMF agreement was also a part of Jamaica's remit. The agreement with the IMF brought financial assistance, but required certain measures, leading to public discontent and challenges in meeting the conditions set by the IMF. I remember walking in stores and supermarkets with empty shelves in. As a boy, I couldn't understand. I remember when saltfish was married to, of course, cake soup. Another landmark event was the Green Bay Massacre. The Green Bay Massacre raised concerns about the human rights issues in Jamaica and the use of military force in internal affairs. It contributed to mistrust between the government and certain communities. And while there was an inquiry into the event, there are still many questions left unanswered. And then there was a One Love concert in 1978. The One Love concert was a symbolic event promoting peace and unity. While it temporarily eased political tension, the underlying issues persisted. And of course, the mayhem continued in subsequent years. I would say the 70s for me, when I was a boy, reflected a time that I could remember talk in the house. I'm sure at that point in time, no one in my house wore a green shirt or orange shirt to ensure that they were not marked. Because in those days, there was a fear. Fast forward today, I see people walking hand in hand with orange and green shirts. But still, the political mayhem continues as the quest for power continues. These events and their consequences illustrate the complexities of Jamaica's journey through the 1970s. Marked by an aspiration for social justice, challenges for political dominance, and the enduring influence of its cultural expressions. I want to say that for every one of these items that I've shared, there's a link that will take you deeper into what happened, and I've done the research. Make your own opinions, but these were some significant events that took place in the 1970s, and I'm sure there are many more. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe.